I thought we let you know already. Lose this number. Welcome on into the PHNX Dbacks show, live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. I am your host for now, I guess, Damon Dog, aka Damon Fairall. Derek Montilla, still gone, still missing, still enjoying the good life in Southern California. I saw today, Kevin, on his Twitter account that he is drinking, I think, a butter beer right now in Harry Potter world. Meanwhile, it's okay. I'll hold down the fort. That's what I'm here for. I'm merely, I say this to Kevin all the time, I'm merely a vessel for Derek Montilla to enjoy his life. And that's what I am doing right here in this very seat. Happy to be here with all of you guys. Please drop a like on this video as we get in here. And I messed this up yesterday as well, Kevin, and this is on me. SkeeYee to you all. How do I forget a SkeeYee? It's almost sacrilegious to be forgetting a SkeeYee off the top of the show. So I apologize. A very special SkeeYee on a Tuesday to all of you. Happy to have you guys here. Jarmy, Deborah, a couple of the early birds here in the chat. Please drop a like on this video. And thank you so much to you guys for being here. We're going to get into a lot today. Expecting to have our friend Alex D'Agostino of the PHNX newsletter of Dbacks on SI here in just a mere matter of moments. But guys, let's talk a little bit about Ketel Marte, because it seems like the rumors are back, and it doesn't really make any sense, does it? So obviously, it seems like it's been somewhat shut down of sorts, that the Arizona Diamondbacks, Mike Hazen, have gone out and said that Ketel Marte is not going to be traded this offseason, that they are going to focus on improving the roster around Ketel Marte, and that eventually the Arizona Diamondbacks had to move on from, being involved in Ketel Marte trade rumors to the extent that they were, right? And so, it was considered that Arizona Diamondbacks fans were celebrating. We were excited. We were happy to have potentially our best player still in the building, not leaving us. And in classic Arizona Diamondbacks fashion, starring out for another team, usually a bigger market team. That wasn't supposed to be the case. We were excited because we found out that via Mike Hazen, and Kevin, I believe we have this quote here from one Mike Hazen. Mike Hazen said, this was 2 weeks ago, look, we've already engaged in that process. I said at the time that I set up the deadline for a reason to avoid this. And what are we looking to avoid? Kevin, what's to be avoided here in this process? And I think it's the idea that, you're still kind of messing with your star player's mental. Ketel Marte, as much as, I think that we all want him to stay and love the guy and appreciate everything he's done for this organization, it would be unfair to say that he is maybe the most mentally strong of some of the players in this organization. And I think that if anyone is going to be messed with rumors of the sort flying over and kind of impacting his level of play, it might be Ketel Marte. And I think Mike Hazen saw that. I think that there's been, and we've talked about this with Derek, a little bit of a push and pull here when it comes to the Arizona Diamondbacks with Ketel Marte this offseason, because I think he feels a little bit disrespected by this entire situation. I think that he feels that the Diamondbacks, should have his back a little bit more and shouldn't even really be entertaining trade offers for a guy who has provided them with such great service over the years, that's re-signed multiple contracts now and extended multiple contracts, who clearly wants to be in Arizona. And I do think that, while it's been less of the Diamondbacks trying to trade him and merely listening to what offers are coming in and doing their due diligence on the subject, I also think that we're looking at a situation where Ketel Marte definitely can see that these rumors are not being entirely shut down when it comes to this process here and just the idea that he could potentially be traded. So Yeah, I mean, we're looking at these rumors resurfacing. We're looking at Ketel Marte potentially, being still in the news here, despite thinking that this saga was somewhat over. And I know that Arizona Diamondbacks fans are not happy to hear that, because we have been basically begging for these rumors to stop here for a mere matter of weeks and months, really. Derek and I obviously started the lose this number movement. We thought it worked, and apparently it did not. One thing that does work, though, is my guy Alex, and Alex is now here in the stream. Let's grab Alex in here. Alex D'Agostino, he's always working. I think that's fair, right, Alex? You got your hands in a million pots. Dbacks on SI. You're here at PHNX Sports doing a lot of great written work for our website. Of course, some great pieces on the Mike LaFleur coaching, hiring and that whole process are right now on gophnx.com. How are we doing, Alex?
Doing great, man. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here as well. Is this your second appearance on the podcast?
I think so. Yeah, I was on with Derek a little while ago, a few weeks.
Yeah. Great stuff here. We're happy to have you here on the podcast. I was just, so far as we were getting into the show and kind of warming up here, I was just kind of explaining the quotes that Mike Hazen had made in the past about this is why he set the deadline, about the Ketel Marte stuff, that he wanted this to end and have a cease of existence here. And yet now we're seeing Jim Bowden come out, Alex, and he's almost stoking the flames a little bit further. I believe we have a quote graphic here from Jim Bowden, and he said to I believe it was Foul Territory, our friends over at Foul Territory. He said, "I do think at some point Ketel Marte gets traded." And that was this quote graphic from Foul Territory was put out just yesterday. I believe that's probably when the interview occurred as well, if maybe not the day before. Alex, what you see that quote? What kind of goes through your thought process here?
We'll do another round of this, right? It's like I kind of feel like it's inevitable. We're gonna be hearing this for a long time. I think it's just one of those things that fans of other teams and people who maybe cover the national baseball landscape will want to keep coming back to it. I think it's just noise at this point for right now. I wouldn't expect it to have any sort of serious implications, and I don't think Mike Hazen was lying about setting the deadline. But I mean, you never know what could happen. But I think it was clear that teams didn't want to pay up then, and I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon, barring some sort of like crazy injury series of events that would cause them to get back into that market. I think this is just, well, we expect it to happen at some point. It didn't happen this offseason, but maybe soon.
Yeah, but then I think the factor that, Dbacks fans are all very keen and aware of, and obviously media as well, but that maybe, I think goes underplayed by some of these national, guys, talking heads and reporters, is that his 10-5 rights kick in at the start of this year. So if the Diamondbacks are not going to trade him now, it's probably not going to happen unless Ketel is really trying to force his way out of Arizona, which has seemingly been unlikely given what we know about Ketel Marte, him signing extensions here in the past, him signing an extension after a 110-loss season the first time around. Like, it doesn't feel like Ketel Marte's priority is leaving Arizona, no?
No, and that's that. You can say a lot of things about Ketel Marte, but one thing that you can also say is that he's loyal. He wants to be here, and I think once those 10-5 rights hit, it probably is kind of the end of that, unless things really start to deteriorate in terms of relationship between him and the front office. And we saw a little bit of that last year, but I don't think that's still playing a role. I think that was maybe a little bit overblown, and I don't think that's a factor anymore in this. I think it was just the trade rumors was Mike Hazen trying to see if he could fill multiple holes by making a huge swing. So yeah, I think once those 10-5 rights hit, it would have to be some sort of catastrophic falling out for something else to happen there.
Yeah, it does feel something of that nature would have to happen, and that Ketel would almost have to be somewhat forcing the issue, and that's not something that has ever felt like it was happening. In fact, I think if you monitor Ketel Marte's social media over this ongoing saga, you've seen nothing but him almost being offended by the rumors, right? Whether it's coming out and posting the picture of him and Corbin smiling, laughing, dancing after a home run, saying, not good teammate, huh? Or we have now this Instagram video that was posted, this boomerang here that was posted last night of Ketel Marte shaking his head, and it seemingly was posted directly after the rumors kind of resurfaced. Do you think, Alex, that, if we're putting our detective hats on and bringing out our magnifying glasses, is Ketel right there? Is that a situation where he's kind of subtweeting, for lack of a better word, Instagram storying the potential rumors here?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is. Not in a problematic way, but he's gonna get his statement out on there, and I think that's okay, because like I said, I think the relationship is fine. I think Mike Hazen said pretty clearly, like, we've stayed in communication with him through this process. I'm gonna sit down and have a conversation when he gets back to Arizona, which I believe he is back now. And I think they've put all of that behind them at this point. And I think he's probably shaking his head because he's just as tired of hearing about it as we are of talking about it and covering it.
Yeah, I would venture to guess probably even more so, right? It's his life in particular that, would have to be uprooted and moved. And I can't help but feel that, like, this entire time it's been, as you've said, like, he was only going to get moved to fill multiple holes, and filling those holes at a high level too. It's not like, you just want average baseball players to come in and replace Ketel Marte. Like, you're looking for guys that have upside, that are young players, and that probably would bring in 2 to 3 starters for this organization right now, right? And I think that it was clear that other teams were somewhat unwilling to pay that asking price the entire time. Whether it was the Red Sox or, some other team that we're talking about. Like, it never felt like we were really even close to the package that was going to be required to take one of the best players in baseball, the single best player at his position, full stop, not even really debatable, on potentially the best contract in the entire sport, that from an extension standpoint of, like, just, how valuable we're talking about this player here, and then not trade him for multiple players that are going to be staples of this organization for years. That price has only gone up now, right? After this deadline, like, you always have to do your due diligence on trade calls, but at this point, like, I already wanted a haul for Ketel Marte if that was going to be the trade that happened. Now it would have to be almost in an unheard of trade price that like would just not make any sense for any other team. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, I think that's absolutely. I mean, that's what it was to begin with. It wasn't just because I think a lot of teams, you saw a lot of the mock trades and the proposals from other fans out there, and it was a lot of quantity over quality, or, a guy that they're really high on that isn't necessarily valuable in the larger scale of things. And it was multiple quality starters and maybe some prospects thrown in as well, and that was the starting point. And, like, we were looking at like a Hunter Green type of pitcher to come back, or multiple young pitchers who have MLB experience that are really good or growing or improving, and all of that. So I think at this point it's not even a matter of the price going up, as it is saying you blew your chance by not giving us what we wanted in the first place.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And welcome on into everybody here that's kind of joining the chat as of recently. ESPN 2323, you said Marte rumors again. I thought we were done with those. I think we all did. I think we all thought we were done with these. And then yesterday there was almost a flurry of news here, led by, I think, Jim Bowden in the first place. He was talking a little bit about Ketel last week as well, saying that, the Red Sox are still interested, that the Yankees, Tigers, and Phillies as well showed interest previously in the offseason and remain kind of hanging around on the peripheral, potentially trying to get involved in maybe getting that trade kicked back up. But I just think that, based off of words that Mike Hazen has said, based off of Ketel Marte's Instagram reaction, based off of the absolute, crash out that this fan base would have if Ketel Marte went out the door at this point, I'm not sure that it really makes much sense for the Arizona Diamondbacks to be making this move. And yeah, like I did some offseason grades yesterday, position by position group with our guy Dalton Feely of John Boy Media. And yeah, we went over, there's a few positions, right, that are still, there's some big holes to fill at those positions, whether you're talking about first base, DH, bullpen help. Like the Diamondbacks did not fill all their needs this offseason. And that's the only reason I think that a Ketel Marte trade in the first place really even made sense, is that you didn't have enough money to fill the amount of holes that you had on this roster. And the best way of doing that would be trading one player for 3, one player for 4, and getting these pieces in. But again, it was going to take MLB ready players, and what organization is willing to trade 3 to 4 MLB ready players or MLB level players with upside for one player? Not very many of them. And so I think that it just, all in all, this whole thing was entirely unrealistic. I expect Ketel Marte to be playing for the Arizona Diamondbacks next season. And you know, I think he will be for a very long time once these 10-5 rights start vesting. But yeah, just it feels like these rumors are the saga that will never end, Alex.
Yeah, and I think that was maybe a little bit of one of the flaws of this offseason approach, was I think maybe they thought they could really make a deal like that happen. And so it kind of pushed back finding other avenues to address some of the holes. And like, absolutely, don't get me wrong, if they had found a deal for Ketel, it probably would have done most of the heavy lifting for them this offseason. And that probably could have, I'm not saying it would have been good to trade Ketel, but it could have set the team up to have more success in 2026 and beyond. Not a guarantee, but it could have. But then we saw it drag on for way longer than we expected, and now we're sitting here wondering if any of these minor league signings are going to fill some of those holes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And now you have a lot of more peripheral moves that were made that you need to somewhat hit on for this roster to you know, accomplish what you need it to in 2026, and that's you know, try to make the postseason, right? So I think you know, you're banking on a lot of internal development. You're banking on a lot of guys like Michael Soroka to find a level of form that maybe they haven't shown for a few seasons now, and you know, hopefully get back to playing the level of baseball that you know he's shown that he could do at an MLB level, but albeit a long time ago. It's been an interesting offseason here. We talked about it yesterday with Dalton Feely. We got into kind of a full offseason breakdown, but I want to catch Alex's thoughts on this offseason right after the break here on the PHNX Dbacks podcast. So please drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and make sure that you're drinking your water. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365, over 90 million users worldwide. This isn't some rinky-dink sports book. This is the top-of-the-line stuff. Very popular overseas, now making a big mark here in the United States market. They have live streams of over 780,000 events, early payout offers across NBA, NHL, Premier League soccer, college basketball, college football, and so much more. And let me tell you, those early payout offers are absolute game changers, guys. I remember I went to Arizona State TCU earlier this year with my buddies, came into town from Fort Worth, Texas, bet on the Horned Frogs. Was it a disaster? Could have been, except I used Bet365 to do my TCU moneyline bet. So when they went up 17-0 in the first half, I got my money. Now, my friends, they used a different sports book. We won't name names, but they didn't win anything. That's the benefit of being on Bet365. Today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across over 70 sports. So guys, check out the MLB early payout offer once we get into the MLB season. It's just the perks on the Bet365 app are better than any perks you will find on any sportsbook app right here in the year of 2026. And that is a Damon Dog promise. It's never ordinary at Bet365, and we got that promo for you. $10 is going to win you $200 in bonus bets. So breaking news from Bet365, new customers now get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the promo code PHNX365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. If your bet wins or loses, bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Also got to tell you guys about my friends over at Pure Edibles. Pure Edibles just makes life just puts you in a different world, Kevin. It's beautiful when you have Pure Edibles because there's all sorts of lasting effects that you can have from taking Pure Edibles that have different effects that are very clearly marked on those tins. So whether you need some help sleeping, maybe you want some uplifting effects, you just want to vibe out and chill, or maybe you want kind of something in between, a hybrid of sorts, Pure Edibles has all of those for you. They even have smokable all-in-one devices brought to you by our friends at Tower Station IPA. Pure Edibles and Tower Station IPA are combining two of the greatest Arizona staples that we got and creating an all-in-one device that is smokable, that is so good, that has so much flavor, and that you guys are going to absolutely love. So who says that you got to stop at all these lame-ass flavors, Kevin? No, let's try an IPA-flavored all-in-one device. Unbelievable stuff. Who says happy hour has to end with that Noble Road Tower Station IPA all-in-one? It's happy hour all the time. So guys, check out Pure Edibles. Over 130 dispensaries statewide that carry Pure Edibles products. You're gonna have to find yourself one of those dispensaries. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries across the great state of Arizona. We're back here on the PHNX Dbacks podcast. Please drop a like on this video. Drop a like for my guy Alex here joining us. Alex D'Agostino of Dbacks on SI, and of course of PHNX or GoPHNX.com as well, doing great work for us on our website here. Alex, we do have some more things to get into. I want to ask you first though about just kind of your general overall view of this offseason, how you felt the Diamondbacks have done. If you had to give an overall letter grade for this offseason, and I saw that you wrote an article for Dbacks on SI about a letter grade that was it Jim Bowden who gave it? That letter grade? Yeah, I believe it was. And it wasn't too far off of what me and Dalton Feely gave the Diamondbacks yesterday.
Yeah, it wasn't too far off what I would give it either. I think he gave it a D plus.
Yes.
I think that's about what I would give it to. I think there are some upside moves. I wouldn't be able to give it a failing grade. Bringing back Merrill Kelly's great. I'm a big fan of that. I think there's some potential in Arenado, but at the same time, it really felt like they kind of avoided the biggest issue, which is the bullpen. And I know Mike Hazen said, like, we can't go into the season with 3 starting pitchers, but what if they went into it with 4 and said, hey, Christian Mena, let's see what you can do as the number 5, right? I feel like they could have found a way to get some legitimate bullpen help. And there's a couple of moves there too, like, I'm a little bit higher on like a Jonathan Loaizaga. I think there's a chance he could become a back end arm if he's healthy. But yeah, it just feels like they ignored the lineup completely. They ignored the bullpen pretty heavily, and their premier move was bringing back Merrill Kelly, which is awesome, but it doesn't do much to raise the ceiling beyond what it was last season, which was not very high once Corbin Burns went down.
Yeah, it feels it's hard to get hyped up about a guy that you already had on your roster that you've become so accustomed to seeing in your rotation. It's like we said goodbye to Merrill Kelly for about 11 games, and then now he's right back in an Arizona Diamondbacks uniform. It doesn't really feel like the type of like monumental move that is going to, change things for this organization. It feels like much of the same, right? And that's not a bad thing. Merrill Kelly is the most consistent pitcher this organization has had for quite some time, right? And he's a franchise legend. He's certainly in the discussion for the all-time rotation in this team's history. Like, he's a great player and a player that I think we're all very excited to have back. It's just that it's not much of a needle mover, kind of like you're saying. And I think that's what bothers Arizona Diamondbacks fans. I went with the C-, so as close as you can get to a D+, just a little bit more optimistic. I think part of me, and I've been hammering this drum for a couple weeks now, is like the Diamondbacks have just had the worst luck you can essentially have in sports the last couple of seasons. I expect that to just improve. And because of that, I think that the team will improve. And maybe, but the team is worse on paper. So it kind of leads me to thinking that like the worse on paper plus the better luck, you meet almost somewhere in the middle, which is the exact spot that you were the last couple of seasons, about a 500 baseball team as of right now. So I'm expecting the Diamondbacks to be somewhere around 500. You still have a lot of holes to fill, and one of those holes to fill is that first base position, which seems like as of right now, the position that has the most smoke around it, right? You have John Gambadoro of Arizona Sports on the weekend saying that they are in discussions with Carlos Santana. Not that it is, close or inevitable, but that they are in direct communication with a former All-Star in Carlos Santana, albeit he is 41 years old and on the downturn of his career. It's also been previously reported that Ty France of the Twins and the Blue Jays last season, former Mariners All-Star, we know how the Diamondbacks love their former Mariners players, is also a guy that the Diamondbacks have been in talks with, albeit supposedly his market is pretty hot right now, and that might deter the Diamondbacks from maybe making a move with Ty France. And then you also have the third option of Paul Goldschmidt, which has been so long discussed this offseason. At one point, it almost felt like it was like a foregone conclusion that Paul Goldschmidt would be back. That was probably us getting ahead of ourselves a little bit as Diamondbacks fans, just being hyped up about one of our franchise legends potentially coming home. But still an option, still available, and still a guy that really has only had rumors with the Diamondbacks and with the Yankees at this point of the offseason. So very much still on the table. When you evaluate this first base position, Alex, how do you view it? Do you believe in Pavin Smith to get the bulk share of the ABs here? Do you think the Diamondbacks need to bring in a platoon option here? And out of those potential options, which one, I guess, kind of strikes you as maybe the best case scenario?
Yeah, I'm not as low on Pavin Smith as I know you are, Damon, but I think his effectiveness is very much dependent on how well he's protected from left-handed pitching. So I think a platoon mate is a necessity. And right now you're looking at, if no additions are made, you're looking at kind of this group of Tyler Locklear, Tim Tawa, Ildemaro Vargas, if he makes the roster, because he's still in the minor leagues. And I'm not sure that's an effective long-term platoon with any of those guys. We're not sure on Tyler Locklear yet. We still got a lot to wait and see from him. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Not to cut you off, Alex, but people call me low on Pavin, but I don't think that they even really hear me talk about Tyler Locklear and how I feel about Tyler Locklear at this moment in time. So I think Pavin is he can be serviceable to an extent. If he's your DH against right-handed pitching and you have like a Josh Naylor or a Christian Walker, that doesn't really bother me that much. But when you're giving him the bulk share of the ABs at the first base spot, that's where I'm like, I don't know if I expect that production to be the level that you need it to at that position.
Yeah. No, I think I'm with you on that. Of the three options, I would say, obviously Goldie's the best option. I mean, he still destroys left-handed pitching. He hit 336. I think it was a 981 OPS, a 169 WRC plus against lefties last season. So that is the best option that you can have. The problem is I'm not sure if that's a realistic target for a platoon role. I'm not sure if that's what he's looking for. And he might even be out of the Dbacks price range at this point. I don't know what his market looks like, but he might be looking for more than they can even afford to spend on a platoon player right now. As far as the other two go, I think Ty France winning a Gold Glove last year was that just kind of came out of nowhere because he's never really been a super defensive first baseman. His OPS was 681. He didn't hit a lot. I think of those two, I think I'd prefer Santana. But Santana's also 40 and the bat has been in decline, but he's been a consistently good defender and kind of that veteran kind of guy, glove first kind of guy that I feel like would appeal to Torey Lovello. And he's a switch hitter as well. So Hazen and Torey would probably like him a little bit more if I had to guess. But those are a couple of interesting names. I was surprised to see the word robust next to Ty France's market, but I guess that's the world we're living in. The first base market is nothing special this year for free agents.
No, it really isn't, Alex. And yeah, it is a little bit interesting to hear the word robust around a guy that had a sub 700 OPS at a position where you're almost essentially required to be an above average offensive player. And that is not above average. That's below average. So Yeah, I mean, not great, but as you mentioned, I think that the defensive component of both of these players appeals to the Diamondbacks. Santana, albeit that he's old, is a really solid defender as well. Ty France, as you mentioned, it gets a Gold Glove. We do have their baseball savant pages here that we did show yesterday, and we can kind of compare these three players together. So we'll start with Carlos Santana here, and kind of just look at what we're essentially some of his underlying numbers look like for a guy like Carlos Santana. I mean, the fielding looks great, right? Like he's 95th in range, 82nd in fielding run value, a lot of blue in a lot of these expected stats and hard hit percentage, barrel percentage type stuff. Obviously none of these guys are going to be the fleetest of foot when it comes to running. Moving on to Ty France here, very similar type page, maybe a little bit less blue in a lot of these expected stat categories, but also a very solid defensive player. 96th in range there and in 10 outs above average. Very, very solid for a first baseman. And then you look at Paul Goldschmidt, the third option there, and you can tell he's the best hitter of the bunch, right? Like that is the guy that I think is the ideal option from a lineup standpoint, from potentially factoring in as a DH as well and getting ABs at DH. And that's kind of where, I sit there and I say, we're talking about Paul Goldschmidt. Is this even the role that he would want, being a platoon option against left-handed pitching? I think Paul Goldschmidt, like if I'm the Diamondbacks, I'm selling Paul Goldschmidt on, if you're even competent against right-handed pitching, you're DHing most of the time or a lot of the time, because this roster does not have a full-time DH right now. It looks like Adrian Del Castillo would maybe be the designated hitter if the season started today. So I'm selling Paul Goldschmidt on, you're starting a third or a quarter of our games at first base and a lot of the other ones at designated hitter. Do you think that could be enough to maybe of a role to sell him on?
That's actually an interesting point, because again, DH is another position that hasn't really been addressed very heavily this offseason, and the outlook on that, like you said, it's ADC, and then I don't even know who the right-handed version of that would look like. So it could be. That could be a way to get him in. Again, I think it would come down a little bit to cost, and if he would be willing to take that. I don't think it would be a super, super hard sell to get him back here, but I do think that it might be difficult to do that in a reduced super platoon heavy role. But like you said, like you showed, his defense is not necessarily a premium asset at this point at first base. So if there's a creative way to get at bats for him, then I would say that's not a bad way to go after that.
Yeah, it just feels like the Diamondbacks need some proven production at that position in particular, and in that designated hitter slot in particular, because you need a guy who's going to hit a couple bombs, who's going to have some power, and really just I think even like to a lesser extent, like the mental aspect of it, like, you always got to respect Paul Goldschmidt going up to the plate. And if he's hitting fifth, sixth in your lineup, that's going to scare teams when you have Corbin Carroll, Geraldo Perdomo, Ketel Marte on the base paths already. And as good as those hitters are, like that, I think that's the type of player that Arizona needs and that the Diamondbacks need in this circumstances, is a guy who is going to, his floor is what, 15 bombs. Like, I expect 15 bombs out of Paul Goldschmidt if he plays a decent amount of innings and gets enough plate appearances. So I'm certainly interested in Paul Goldschmidt at this point. Another guy I was interested in, Alex, was Eugenio Suarez. And I had mentioned, like, if his market keeps cooling like this, what's stopping us from getting involved and making him a first base option or a DH option, right? And then the Reds seemingly, that was their thought process. They go 1 year, $15 million. Would you have considered giving Gino that type of contract?
For $15 million, yeah, I would love to have Gino back. One of the best players I've been able to cover, just as a person and as a player. And I think that the fans would have loved having him back too. But he would have. I mean, his defense really took a step back, so he probably would have had to been pretty much relegated to a DH role, like what the Reds are doing. And it's a 1-year deal. I know there's a mutual option. I can't remember the last time a mutual option got picked up by both sides.
As my good friend Jesse Friedman says, mutual options are maybe the most worthless thing in sports.
Yeah. And so 15 is a bit on the high end for that, with the amount of risk and with the decline he went into in the second half of 2025. But at the same time, I think you're going to get some bombs, you're going to get some power, and you're going to get good vibes. So I think in a vacuum, that probably is worth it. But to this team right now, in the state that they are financially, I don't think there was any chance they were going to consider that.
Yeah, that's probably the truth and probably the case. I just have seen Ken Kendrick the last couple of off seasons, figure out ways to kind of pony up some extra money, whether it was Jordan Montgomery or Corbin Burns, more money than you thought that the Diamondbacks had if it was for the right piece. And obviously Montgomery was about as bad of signing as it possibly could have been. But at the time, we were sitting up there going, oh my God, we have the best rotation in baseball. We just got this dude who helped the Rangers win the World Series and is great in the postseason and fits this roster as a lefty. And it just didn't work out. But I think that part of me was like, could you convince Ken Kendrick that, hey, let's bring back this guy who was just absolutely mashing for us last season, who wants to be here, who said he did not want to get traded, and that doesn't have to play, the defensive side of the third base position really anymore, because we don't need that as much. We have maybe the greatest defensive third baseman in the history of the sport playing third base right now for our team in Nolan Arenado. And you could have tried to convince Gino that, he could get some first base, minutes or innings, I should say, not minutes. That's basketball. Innings at first base with Pavin Smith versus, or at DH, kind of similar to what we're talking about with a Paul Goldschmidt, a Carlos Santana, a Ty France, where, they probably would be kind of switching back and forth between first base and designated hitters. So yeah, it's definitely, the Diamondbacks have so many more needs to fill. It feels like that first base position is the one that particularly the Diamondbacks are looking to fill here in the very near future. Even Derek Hall, I brought the quote graphic on the show yesterday that he said that we're going to sign a complimentary first baseman. He said maybe some starting pitching help, maybe some bullpen help, but he said we are going to sign a complimentary first baseman for Pavin Smith. So I expect that move to be in the near future and to happen soon here. We could be seeing, and I saw this mentioned on Twitter, that guys that are going to start the year on the injured list will be happening very shortly here. And I think that that's potentially when we could be seeing maybe a little bit more movement on the first base side of things once a roster spot gets cleared up, maybe depending on what we're seeing with Lourdes and if he is going to be ready to go or not, maybe he gets a 60-day IL stint at the start of the season, right when he's made eligible for it. And then we get that 40-man roster spot available to this team. So I expect first base movement very, very shortly here. And hopefully it's someone that we can all kind of, have some confidence in and feel like we raises the floor of this offense and this organization a little bit. We're going to get right back into some more Diamondbacks talk right here after our second break on the PHNX Dbacks podcast. I want to talk to Alex about Gabby Moreno's ranking in the top catchers list by MLB, and you'd be surprised and happy with where he was ranked. So we'll get into that right here after the break here on the PHNX Dbacks pod. You already know Phoenix is one of the best sports cities in America, but this spring it's about to raise the bar to an entirely new level. For the first time, NASCAR and NTT IndyCar Series are racing at the same weekend at Phoenix Raceway, and you get a front row seat to it all. Nothing delivers the intensity of race weekend, whether it's the engines firing, the smell of the rubber, the crowd erupting as the field charges into turn one. It's the kind of energy that you really have to feel in person to understand, and I can attest to that. I've been out to Phoenix Raceway a couple times now since I moved up to the Valley, and it is a truly special sports experience in the foothills of the Estrella Mountains. You have to get out there for yourself, family friendly or not. If you want to go out there and have a party, you can also do that as well. That's the great part about the Phoenix Raceway weekend, is that there are so many different avenues and ways in which you can choose from. If you want to be in the lawn, you want to do the parking with your, you want to camp out there with your trailer in the lawn, you can do that. You can get tickets for single days, race weekend tickets. You can even get VIP tickets that give you special access. Unbelievable stuff out there at 2026 Spring NASCAR Weekend at Phoenix Raceway, making history with NASCAR and NTT IndyCar Series on the same exact track. So if you guys want to watch Kyle Larson, 2025 Cup Series champion out there, that's where you're going to want to go. Race weekend series in Phoenix, March 5th through 8th. Secure your seats now at the link in our description below. Let's also talk about our friends over at Circle K. Join that Inner Circle Rewards membership. It is for free. It's so easy to download. You just use an email and a password and you're done. Every time you fill up at the tank, all you got to do is plug in your phone number and the savings are right there in front of you. 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, then 3 cents off per gallon every time you fill up after that until you hit premium status like me and Kevin, and you get 5 cents off per gallon every single time you fill up at the tank. We love our friends at Circle K. The Inner Circle Rewards membership program is free. It's easy. It's trying to save you money. They got fuel days, 40 cents off all throughout the month. You're going to have to be on the lookout for those. All types of meal deals, snack deals, America's Thirst Stop. You know they got drink deals. Guys, Circle K is the only place that we're refueling any time of the week, really, but especially if you're here in the great state of Arizona. Circle K, the number one Arizona business as far as I'm concerned. We love our friends at Circle K and thank them for sponsoring Studio K over here. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. We are back here on the PHNX Dbacks podcast. Please drop a like on this video. Guys, we need some likes run up here in this one. A little bit light on the likes today, but I appreciate everybody for being in here. We got all the staples, Steven, Jarmy, Sean, Robert. Robert, you've been holding it out strong recently. Deborah, of course. Appreciate everybody for being here. Katie, Derek will be back tomorrow. I will be doing tomorrow's show during the day, but he will be back in Arizona and ready to get back to work tomorrow. So we will be back with our guy, Derek Montilla, the mayor, very shortly here, but I'm holding it down in the meantime. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, hanging out with us. And Alex, there was a very generous ranking, I think. Not that it was undeserved, but one that was, I think, very showed a lot of respect for the Diamondbacks catcher in Gabriel Moreno, done by MLB Network in their top, their top 10 rankings that they went along and did. And Gabby Moreno checks in at number 6 on the catchers list going into this season, ranked the number 6 catcher in Major League Baseball. You hear that ranking, what are your first thoughts?
I was honestly a little bit surprised it was that high because he moved up from 7 last year and I think 10 the year before that. So he's been kind of steadily rising up there. And I think I was a little surprised because the shredder and this top 10 right now is kind of heavily skewed towards recency. And while his numbers were great, he played like 80 games last year. So I was a little bit surprised to see that, but it's all like he had his best offensive season last year as well. So I think, we forget about that a little bit when there's an injury that claims he was out like 6 weeks. But he had his best offensive numbers and his defense was solid. Wasn't quite as good as his Gold Glove year, but definitely a player that has been improving every single year. And so I think it's cool to see MLB recognizing that.
Yeah, I was honestly a little bit surprised myself when I started looking into his season last season, because I think that the impact felt a lot more minimal than maybe it was, even because of the time out with injury. And obviously that's been somewhat of the struggle with Gabriel Moreno in his first 3 years here with the Diamondbacks, is that he has had a lot of stuff that has kept him off the field, even kind of silly things like, he had a dentist appointment that day and needed to get surgery on one of his teeth. And so we had to scratch him from the lineup. Like, he always just has these little things that kind of keep him out, or even, like bigger things too, where there's somewhat of a collision at the plate or whatever. And it feels like, it keeps him out for an extended period of time, longer than we thought he was going to be kept out for, so on and so forth. You do look at his underlying stats though. They're really solid, Alex. I mean, 90th percentile in fielding value last season. And as you said, we've seen higher levels of him and his defensive ability than we saw last season. And he was still one of the better catchers in all of baseball when it comes to the defensive side of the ball last season. His offense, his underlying stats are some of the best of any catcher you'll find. He's not really qualifying in a lot of these statistics because of the timeout with injury, but yeah, I mean, he was really good. Kevin, I do believe we have here his stats from the 2025 season, and then I put it in comparison to his Fangraphs projections for the 2026 season here. So looking at Gabby Moreno's 2025 season, he hit 285 last year, which is one of the better, hitting averages of any catcher you'll find in the sport here. 9 bombs, 40 RBI, 786 OPS, which is pretty dang solid. It was good for an OPS plus of 117, which is well above average there, as OPS plus average is 100. And then his FWAR was 2.7, which I think was honestly more of a factor of the lack of playing time than him, not really being super impactful, albeit that's almost a 3-WAR season. So you look at his, projection for 2026 via Fangraphs, they have him at a 279 average, so around the same, taking a slight dip. A little bit more home runs here with 11, an uptick in RBI production with 55, a slight downturn in the OPS here at 772, albeit, that's still very, very solid. And then an FWAR of almost 4 at 3.9. You look at those projections, Alex, do you think that Diamondbacks fans would be very happy with that 2026 season from Gabriel Moreno?
Absolutely, especially if he's on the field for most of the season. I think that's the biggest thing. But honestly, one of the bigger questions about him was, can that power start to come around? Because he always had kind of that contact ability. He had a good swing, had a good approach, but we really started to see that happen. We really started to see him slug the ball a little more in 2025, and I think it wasn't at the expense of, a massive increase in strikeout rate either. So that's why I think I'm kind of excited to see what happens with him offensively this coming year, because I think, he's still 25 years old. He's on an upward trajectory. He's improved every single year. And I think we're probably bordering on seeing some star-like numbers out of him again, if he's able to stay on the field.
Yeah, you mentioned the strikeout rate. His strikeout rate went from in 2023, he had a 19.7% strikeout rate. In 2024, he was down to 14.8%. And then in 2025, he meets in the middle there at 17.2%. So he struck out about 2.4% more per at bat there in the 2025 season. But I think that, when you talk about the fact that he even had a higher average as well, I think that Gabriel Moreno is the type of player that I think you want to see a little bit more aggressiveness at the plate from, because it feels like when he's aggressive, when he's attacking the baseball, like we saw in that 2023 postseason, he's an absolute star. It's not just that he's like a decent catcher that's helping your team. It's that he's coming up in big moments. He's showing you a lot of power, and those are in moments where it feels like he's just straight up attacking the baseball. So I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit in the way of some strikeouts for that kind of offensive uptick. And yeah, I think, Arizona Diamondbacks fans should be really excited about having this guy showing what he showed from a slugging standpoint last season. He improves his slug, Alex, from 380 to 433. That's a 53-point increase in your slugging percentage alone. And yeah, I think if he can sustain that, be in the 400 range, the mid 400 range, like that is going to go a long way in terms of helping this team, a team that needs offensive production very, very badly. Proven offensive production, floor raisers, because I think they have the ceiling raising guys. They have Corbin Carroll, they have Ketel Marte, they have Geraldo Perdomo, the players that can put together special seasons and make tons of special moments over the course of a season, right? Ketel is so clutch. We see it all the time. Perdomo had a 7-WAR season. He's the man when it comes to runners in scoring position. Feels like he's always the guy who's getting rallies started as well. And Corbin has shown a propensity for those late game heroics and moments as well. But I think you need guys that kind of sustain you throughout the game, that put numbers on the board throughout the game, because it can't just be 3 hitters in a 9-person lineup. And that's where a guy like Gabriel Moreno, I'm looking at the team in the potential opening day starting lineup, and I'm saying he might be the hitter I'm 4th most confident in on the entire team. So you need Gabriel Moreno to have a breakout this season. I think you need him to stay healthier than he's shown maybe the past few seasons. And you need him to have that offensive production that he had last year, but just do it over the course of a longer sample size. Do it over 120 games rather than over 80 games. And I think that would it would so vastly improve the floor of this Diamondbacks team, because I can't help but feel that the guys like Lourdes right here, the guys like Gabby, like even the guys like Pavin Smith, their roles on next year's roster are so pivotal in terms of just, what is this team actually going to be?
Yeah, I think right now, barring any sort of external additions, I think Gabby's your cleanup hitter right now, because he's been pretty good with runners in scoring position, with runners on. He's also really good at placing the ball. I mean, Gabby Lane is a nickname for a reason. It's not an accident that he's going there. He knows there's a gap there. He hits doubles to the gaps. So yeah, and he's also a Dodger killer, which I know is a pretty big factor for Diamondbacks fans, right? But yeah, and that's true. I think you expect to see it, but there's also a little bit of pressure on it, because unless they really make some moves, this is a guy that is probably the fourth best hitter on your team and the fourth most important hitter in the lineup for at least until Gurriel comes back.
Yeah, certainly. And I just feel like, those guys, they have their flaws, Gabby and Gurriel being, those players, but they're so pivotal to what this team is trying to accomplish in 2026, just given that, you need their bats in the lineup, and you need them to, just provide consistent output that, a lot of the other players on the team, you can't really necessarily expect that out of. But I do want to say that it does feel like we're maybe embarking on the Gabriel Moreno breakout season. Like, I feel pretty confident that, this could potentially be the best season of Gabby Moreno's career. And that I think we're going to finally see a fully pieced together version, and maybe the start of this guy's prime. And I feel like all of these things because of Geraldo Perdomo's Instagram post the other day that made me feel all of these things, Alex. So Kevin, can we go ahead and see that Instagram post? I mean, is this not an all-star in the making? Geraldo Perdomo is out there vacationing with Gabby Moreno, and here's Gabby hitting the full meditation pose in a waterfall. That is aura, is it not, Alex?
I think that is aura. Yeah, I think when you look up aura, that's what comes up.
100%. I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, that's a 2026 all-star. I need to see nothing else. 2026 All-Star confirmed, Gabriel Moreno. And you love to see the boys hanging out in the offseason like that. But we are embarking on, pitchers and catchers reporting very soon. Spring training starting very soon here. And I know our guy Alex is going to be out there covering it all. Another thing that Alex covered very recently that we have not talked about yet on this show, because it kind of happened over the weekend and then we didn't mention it yesterday, but the Dbacks brought in another bullpen arm, albeit maybe a guy who's a little bit more on the margins, and one Junior Fernandez. I know that you were aware of the move. You wrote something about it for Dbacks on SI. Do you have any thoughts on Junior Fernandez?
Yeah, so this is a guy who spent a lot of time with the St. Louis Cardinals. He has not pitched in the major leagues since 2022. In 23, he bounced around the minor leagues. In 24, he tried to, I believe, play in Japan, but I think he had an injury of some sort. I think it was like a clavicle, if I'm not mistaken. And so he ended up not pitching at all except for the minor league team in Japan. So he doesn't even have any stats for 2024, at all. 25, I think he was, again, just kind of in the minor leagues. This is probably not a guy that you expect to see on the major league roster, but like I said earlier, because there have been so few bullpen moves this offseason, this is a guy that you look at his profile and you say, well, maybe, because his numbers aren't that incredible, but I'll tell you this, he throws a sinker that is about 99 miles per hour and has some wicked arm side movement. He has an 89 mile per hour slider and a 90 mile per hour changeup. And that's been a trend this offseason. You've been seeing a lot of these guys that they've been bringing in, even on just minor league deals, even if they're just depth. They're guys that are, I mean, you're not seeing a fastball below like 95 miles an hour. Derek Law, Loizaga, like those kind of guys. So I'm not so sure that he's going to be an impact arm, but I also think that there's a clear intent with what they're doing with these depth arms and saying we'll figure out how to make these guys effective with as long as they have good stuff, as opposed to maybe the Taylor Rashis or the Tommy Henrys of the world that throw a crisp 89. Not to throw too much shade on those guys, because Taylor Rashi was pretty good last year, but it's been a bit of a shift in that mentality with some of these bullpen arms, some of these minor league signings of like, no, get guys that can throw hard. We'll figure it out.
I think that I must bring it out of people, Alex, because you're one of the nicest dudes in Phoenix sports media, and here you are throwing a couple of relievers under the bus, calling them bums, because that's what I'm doing up here on the PHNX Dbacks podcast every day, right? And I agree with you, though. I feel like there has been somewhat of a philosophy shift here in the Dbacks organization of like, let's stop going after kind of the guys who have low walk rates and that are not going to like kill us in terms of like, putting a bunch of people on base. But then that leads to, the people putting the ball over the fence, them, not necessarily having stuff that is causing a lot of swing and miss. And I've said it on with last season as well. And I know he had his struggles, but like, I'd rather live and die with the Juan Marios of the world than the for example, who was the one dude? I don't know why I'm blanking. The guy who kept getting all the save opportunities late in the season.
Was it John Curtis?
No, not John Curtis, but yeah, John Curtis. Although
don't disrespect John Curtis, man. Come on.
If John Curtis hears his name, he appears, Kevin. So I don't know if you can find John Curtis right there on the bottom and throw him up on. So there he is. There's John. He's never going to leave us. But Woodford.
Oh, Jake Woodford.
Yeah, Woodford. It's like I'd rather live and die with the Marios than the Woodfords of the world. Give me a guy who throws 100 and is kind of electric, and that like if it works out, it's gonna work out. Or at least if you're in like a ghost runner situation, he could get out there and maybe strike a guy out and strand a dude on second base rather than a dude who's up there throwing 92. And that the first pitch, we're moving him over. Second pitch, it's sack fly because it's so easy to make contact on a guy like that. I think that we have seen a bit of a philosophy shift. They've brought back some of these Rashi and Curtis options as minor league depth because they feel comfortable with them. But hopefully this roster is, a lot more of bullpen arms of the guys that we traded for, that we invested in. Like, I think that that's one thing that does go a little bit under talked about is that maybe the plan was to never really bring in that much bullpen help in the offseason. Maybe the plan was Mike Hazen thinking 2 steps ahead and saying, you know what, we're not going to be able to bring in a lot of these top-end relievers, back-end arms that are going to make a difference in this bullpen. So what we're going to have to do is trade Naylor for bullpen help, trade Gino for bullpen help, bring in guys like Brandon Garcia, Juan Burgos, Andrew Hoffman, and those are going to be the future of the bullpen. So if you could just get a couple of those guys to stick, this bullpen might be a lot better than what we thought they could be. But I know that's a very hard thing to have confidence in as an Arizona Diamondbacks fan when you watch bad bullpens after bad bullpens year after year after year. It just feels like we're due for some good bullpen luck eventually, right? And hopefully that's what 2026 looks like.
You'd hope so. One thing I'll also point out, too, is depending on how the first part of his season goes, and if he's healthy and all that, and when Corbin Burns comes back, I wouldn't be shocked if Michael Soroka becomes a bullpen arm. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like that. I'm not sure if this was always the plan, and obviously Hazen said the plan is for Soroka to start. But once the rotation is full again, if everyone else is healthy, I wouldn't be shocked to see them try him out in a relief role, because he was actually really, really good as a reliever last year. And not as much as a starter. So I think it'll kind of depend on results there a little bit too, maybe riding the hot hand.
Yeah, I certainly could see that, being a potential option as well. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of different avenues that the Arizona Diamondbacks can kind of go with this bullpen in particular. I mean, it's not like anything's really set in stone, right? Or with the pitching rotation in general. Even I think about, Michael Soroka, like, what if he performs and Eduardo Rodriguez continues to give you an ERA of over 5? now, like there's a potential chance that you're talking about Soroka stays in the rotation because he's earned it, and now you have a $20 million long relief option in Eduardo Rodriguez. So lots of avenues to be had here. Hopefully, it's a hard choice because it's a lot of good options when we're all said and done, Alex. And rather than sitting there and going, someone that stinks has to be in this starting rotation, but we'll get there when we get there. In the meantime, you can of course follow my guy Alex's work, like I said, for Dbacks on SI, as well as written work for PHNX Sports here, PHNX Cardinals, doing a lot of great Cardinals work in regards to the new head coach in Mike LaFleur. So go on to gophnx.com and check out those great articles from our guy Alex. You can follow him at AlexDagAZ on Twitter. Make sure you guys go give him a follow. And Alex, appreciate you so much for jumping on here on a Tuesday with me, hanging out. And we'll have to have you on again sometime soon, my guy.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Peace out to Alex again. Like I said, follow him at AlexDagAZ on Twitter. Alex always providing great insight. Great dude. Tomorrow, we got him in the chat here. We got Big Jake Franklin in the building tomorrow. Not actually in the building. He's in Oregon. He left us forever. But Jacob Franklin going to be calling in, talking some D-backs baseball, making his return to the show. Cannot wait to talk to Big Jake. Hollywood Franklin, we like to call him around here. Apparently, Kevin, Hollywood Franklin is going to be sitting courtside at the Blazers game tomorrow night. So he's sparing his time in the morning or in the afternoon for this little podcast that could, and then in the nighttime he's just turning into a movie star.
Goat. That's how all the big wigs move. In one place in the morning, jet off to another place at night, party on the weekend. Who knows what Jacob Franklin's getting into up in Oregon? It's a crazy place out there.
It is a crazy place out there, and of
Lawless.
course, you guys will have to join us for tomorrow's show as we might take it off the rails with Jacob Franklin. But appreciate everybody for being here. In the meantime, on this PHNX D-backs podcast, we'll be back tomorrow at noon. Make sure that you guys are here for that one. In the meantime, drop a like on this video. Let's run up these likes at the end of the show, at the end of the stream. Turn on those notifications, subscribe to the channel, help us on our road to 50K. We are so close. We want to hit to 50K as soon as possible. It's just going to do so much for us as a YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Like this video, like I said, and we'll catch you on tomorrow's PHNX D-backs podcast. You can follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. You can follow Kevin at Kevo Posts. You can follow Derek at Cap_Caveman with a K. And you can follow us at PHNX_D-backs on all social media. Appreciate everybody for watching this podcast, holding it down strong while Derek Montilla is out of town. And we will be back, like I said, at noon on another PHNX D-backs podcast. But in the meantime, remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you got a top 10 catcher in baseball.
We all silly like the mayor.